Hey, I'm Jana, the little sister.
And I'm Jeff, her big brother. Welcome to Sibling Rivalry, a podcast about our favorite sport, baseball.
This week on Sibling Rivalry Baseball, more awards, options, and free agents. Oh my!
Janet, what is this? What do you mean you're not picking up my option? But we're definitely going to pick up the option on some headlines.
Odell Beckham Jr. and Cleveland just didn't get along. After a blockbuster trade between the Browns and the New York Giants brought OBJ to Cleveland, the relationship never worked out. He never clicked with quarterback Baker Mayfield, and Cleveland released Beckham after a tense relationship with the wide receiver. Where he lands next is anyone's guess, but the Browns have moved on, beating the Cincinnati Bengals 41-16 without Beckham and not looking back.
Aaron Rodgers back in the headlines, and once again, not for his play. If you remember, earlier on, he wanted to be traded from the Packers, didn't want to be a Packer anymore. Then he hosted Jeopardy, which stirred a lot of rumors. Now it's for testing positive for COVID. But that really isn't where the problem lies, but the fact that he apparently lied or was misleading about being vaccinated. In August, he advised he was immunized and that wouldn't judge teammates that were not vaccinated. It's personal choice, he said. He concealed his unvaccinated status until testing positive. The NFL has confirmed. No word as of now if he has been or will be punished for breaking league protocol. The question now is, did the Packers or the NFL know of his true status?
Former Raiders wide receiver Henry Ruggs III is facing 2 additional felony charges as well as a misdemeanor following his involvement in a fiery crash on November 2nd in Las Vegas that left a 23-year-old woman and her dog dead and Ruggs and his girlfriend injured. Ruggs, 22, initially faced being charged with felony driving under the influence, resulting in death and reckless driving, after prosecutors said he was driving 156 miles per hour and had a blood alcohol level more than twice the legal limit in the state of Nevada.
Tennessee Titans running back Derrick Henry suffered a potentially season-ending foot injury versus the Colts in Week 8. The injury required surgery, which, per reports, went well. He will now start the 6 to 10 week recovery and rehab phase. The Titans, who have the best record in the AFC, are now being questioned as a playoff team and Super Bowl contender. Many experts are saying Henry is the reason for their success, and now the Titans season is over. The team has signed veteran running back Adrian Peterson to fill in. There is a chance Henry may return in time for the playoffs. For the record, the Derrick Henry-listed Titans upset the LA Rams 28-16 on Sunday Night Football, improving to an AFC best 7-2.
You can find these and past week's headlines on our website, siblingrivalrybb.com. Remember to rate and subscribe wherever you listen, and tell a friend to listen to the Sibling Rivalry Baseball Podcast.
SRBB salutes all veterans, not just on Veterans Day, but every day. Coming from a family of veterans, we fully understand the sacrifice required by every service member and family. We honor those who, by serving, were willing to give their life for their country without question or hesitation.
Imagine potentially giving up on your dream career to take on a role greater than yourself. Players like Ty Cobb, Casey Stengel, Tris Speaker, Oscar Charleston, and many others battled in World War I. Over 500 players from all levels of baseball voluntarily served in World War II. Ted Williams, who also served in Korea, gave up 5 years of his baseball career to serve in the Marines. Jackie Robinson, Stan Musial, Yogi Berra, who participated in the D-Day invasion, Larry Doby, and Hank Greenberg were just a few of the eventual Hall of Famers to serve. Bob Feller was the first American professional athlete to enlist. Willie Mays, Ernie Banks, and Whitey Ford were just a few of the stars to volunteer for service during the Korean War. Oriole great Al Bunbury was awarded a Bronze Star while a platoon leader in Vietnam. Many others served during this time, primarily in the reserves. Many minor leaguers and college players have served in all conflicts, answering their nation's call, over 4,500, with many making the ultimate sacrifice. Like Joe Pender, who never rose above the AA level, was awarded the Medal of Honor posthumously for his actions on the beach at Normandy, dying on his 32nd birthday, June 6, 1944.
Currently, there are no MLB players with military service. And even though he was not a baseball player, we must recognize former NFL player Pat Tillman, who left the Arizona Cardinals after 3 years in the NFL to enlist in the Army. Tillman was killed in Afghanistan in 2004. He was awarded the Silver Star posthumously. We are honored to salute not only these, but every veteran for their service and sacrifice.
Getting to what is sometimes the most exciting time of the baseball season. No other league has an off season like baseball does. The hot stove, especially if your team didn't make the playoffs, the hot stove league can be the craziest and it can be the most infuriating. And we're going to talk a little bit about that as somebody's already lit the burners on not one, but at least 3 of the 4 on a standard stove. But first, a little housekeeping to do. This is one of the last 2 episodes of this season, season 2 of SRBB. We have, we're planning season 3, and we hope to be back on opening day 2022, which is March 31st, with our season preview and welcome back to baseball and the rites of spring and all that. So we have this one, and then next week we're going to move to Friday, so that way we can get the MVP and talk about whoever wins the MVP. But for this week, we still have more awards that have been given out or are on the verge of being given out. And this year's, I don't know, for lack of a better term, award compiler for SRBB MVP is Jana, because she's been sitting there looking at all this stuff. She even got so interested in the gold gloves that she made her own predictions because she was fired up about the wrong that so many players that shouldn't have been considered were considered. Of course, I'm not sure, Jana, do you realize that all gold glovers can't just be Dodgers?
Well, actually, I only picked one Dodger in all of my predictions. One. And there were 3. And I didn't pick the other 2. So
because I thought you just picked all of the Dodgers.
Even if they weren't nominated, they
weren't nominated, my gold glove team. Well, for you, it would be the Golden Gloves team. Because apparently they're all boxers.
Yes.
Not briefs.
Well, Max Muncy, he could fit into that category. I could see him in the ring.
He is coming off the top rope.
That's right.
So let's take a look at the awards that have come out since last episode. And let's start with the ones near and dear to our heart, because we get to vote on these with the IBWAA awards. And what did we have? Let's do it in the order that they came out. Rookie of the Year.
Rookie of the Year for the American League, Randy Arozarena, who has been a rookie for 3 years now and cannot run again for Rookie of the Year, and Jonathan India of the Cincinnati Reds. I was disappointed to see Randy Arozarena. Not that he's not a good player, but I really felt like Ryan Mountcastle of the Orioles deserved Rookie of the Year, but that was the winners.
Do you think it was the buildup? I think because even us, the one thing I know about when you look at our organization, the IBWAA versus the baseball writers, is that the baseball writers are usually pretty, number one, they think that their opinion's above everybody else's. But when you look at how things are promoted through the season, BBWAA pretty much stays on that track. Whereas with the IBWAA, you have people who are from, like us, podcasters. You have people who write for their regional or for their home teams or for that. There's very specific niches. So things could get weird with ours. But do you think that because we could still be subject to that same barrage of information, do you think that Randy Arozarena, having been kind of in the spotlight, especially in the postseason last year specifically, and then having a decent year this year, played more into it because his name was more recognizable off the top of your head than Ryan Mountcastle?
Oh, yeah,
played
definitely.
for the Orioles too, which doesn't help.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I mean, because I know when I was filling out, because we just have, I don't know how many blanks did we have, like 10 blanks, or
it depended on this thing, but some of them were up to 10. There were a few that were
and so
like 5 or 6.
But yeah, I mean, he was one I put in there. He wasn't in my top, but I just, he's more, the name is more recognizable. But like I said, it seems like he's been a rookie for 3 years or forever. And now he can't be a rookie anymore because he has been awarded Rookie of the Year, at least through IBWAA.
And then Jonathan India, honestly, I had to go look and see who else was a rookie in the National League because I just didn't remember seeing any. And Jonathan India didn't seem to play like a rookie most of the time.
No, I was surprised when they said he was a rookie, and then I'm like, really? Because he doesn't seem like he's a rookie, but I think he was most deserving. He was my number one. He was my pick.
All right, so let's go to what was the next day, because we did it the same way, one day, one at a time. Manager of the Year. Now, who did you vote for in the American League?
In the American League, I voted for Scott Servais, right?
Service.
Did I say Service? I always want to. I want to spice it up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Service.
Yeah.
Service.
So Scott Service of the Mariners, because I just think he did a good job with this team, and then that last little, that run there that was really exciting for, I think, just for baseball, that they could have possibly dethroned the Astros. That would have been
awesome. They passed the A's, and they weren't meant to be. The Angels were actually picked in front of them.
Yeah.
At least third place. And no, they ended up in second place to finish out the season. And so that's going to be, it'll probably be easier for Scott Service next year. Now, Jerry DiPoto really has the big job in the off season to fix that. But yeah, Scott Service was who I picked as well, but that's not who got it.
No, Kevin Cash was the
Which
manager.
I don't get. I understand that they have a low payroll, but he has a lot of the same guys from last year.
Yeah, it was
doing that made him the manager of the year over somebody like Scott Service.
Yeah, they had pretty much, like you said, the same lineup. Didn't really have a lot of, things that were like obstacles where they had to, rearrange things. So I'm not sure. It could have been
not having Tyler Glass now, but Tyler Glass now is normally, my glass is now half empty. of a pitcher versus a half full type of a pitcher.
Right.
He's not, he's good, but you never know what you're going to get with him. So what if he lost him? And then he got Nelson Cruz during the season. So he got a good bat. So I don't know. I'm not sure what that is.
The only thing, I think it goes back to the question you asked, before about Randy Arozarena. They lost. He was the runner-up in the 2020 World Series, and now he guided his team to another playoffs. But, they were not in the playoffs very long, 100-win season. But as we have documented on this show, nobody cares about 100-win seasons.
No.
So
all three of the 100-win teams were out somewhat. Well, I mean, I guess the Dodgers weren't out quickly, but they didn't show up at the end. None of the 100-win teams were in the World Series.
Right. So I think, again, it's probably just that name recognition. Now, this is a guy that I voted for, even though I still not sure about his glasses, Gabe Kapler.
Right.
And Gabe Kapler came in for San Francisco and did a phenomenal job as manager, worked with, his players. And I think so. I think he's very deserving of Manager of the Year.
All right. So next one up would be Cy Young. And I think that the National League, it wasn't a unanimous thing, but I think everybody pretty much was on the same page.
Yeah, and that would be Max Scherzer. Max Scherzer was my pick. I think your pick for Cy Young. And then in the AL is Robbie Ray, who has been, talked about quite a bit for this season that he's had. Now, we know in previous seasons, not so great, but he just happened to have a really good season this year for Toronto.
Which is good timing for him because he's a free agent, and now people are going to spend a lot more money on him than they should for one solid season. I mean, he's shown things, but he's had injury issues. He said that. So this worked out well for him. So, cool for Robbie Ray and what's ahead for him. I think I ended up probably voting for him there, too, because when I went back and looked at the numbers,
I did too.
He really did have the big numbers. And I had honestly, I think at the beginning of the season, thought or somewhere in the season thought Lance Lynn was going to be the guy. But
when I went back, thinking about who was at the top, and I looked at Robbie Ray, Lance Lynn, you look at Garrett Cole, Dallas Keuchel, those names that kind of always come up, but it was Robbie Ray. I think he had the best ERA in the American League.
Right.
So he deserved that award. And MVP.
MVP awards. I think that everybody had the same idea on this one as well. And once again, one was kind of a slam dunk, like the Cy Young. Max Scherzer just ran away with it all, especially in that last stretch. And more people were seeing him because he was part of the Dodgers. But he really, elevated his game even a little more than what he was doing in Washington. Now with the MVP, the AL, while there was some controversy for a little bit, I think it was pretty much a given that Shohei was going to get the award just based on not only what everybody was saying, but on not only on his season, but what everybody was saying. Even the players picked him as their player of the year.
Yeah, he definitely, when you look at Shohei Ohtani, he obviously brings something to the field. He is two-way player. He was, DH and pitched. And he didn't just bring MVP to, if you look, as some people do, at the team, that didn't matter. He was MVP of Major League Baseball.
Yeah, and everything. There, you don't even need a National League MVP. There's one MVP this year.
That's it.
Because no matter where he went, as much as I would like to see Vladdy play, you didn't see people with Vladdy signs in other ballparks.
No.
You saw people who were probably diehard fans of the team that he was at that were rooting for them. And then, of course, you saw the Japanese citizens of the U.S. or visitors or whatever they were. Everywhere you went, you could see there were people who love Ohtani and were in his gear. People were making stuff.
Well, there were guys I don't remember what team it was. I think I texted you. I sent you a picture about it, and I can't remember the team now. But anyway, they were watching Shohei. The Angels were playing their team, so they had their team's jerseys on. But when Ohtani came up, they put Ohtani jerseys on.
Oh, right. I remember that. I don't remember the team either.
I can't remember the team,
was funny.
But that's the kind of that's how much he was, adored. The effect he had, and he was just adored everywhere. He just, is a really cool guy. And the things
going. He's he's a good-looking kid, and it's crazy how and when you look at it, it was every stadium. Like we said, I think we talked about it on the show earlier. Was that the fans in Minnesota booed their team because they intentionally walked him.
Yeah, and that happened I think that happened probably at every stadium. If the Angels were the visiting team and Ohtani was walked, they got the fans
upset.
Booed.
They wanted to see him. They didn't come to see their team play. They came to see Ohtani.
That's it. Yep. And I would be interesting to go back and look and see during those times when the Angels were playing away, the ticket, like the attendance for those 3 games or 4 games versus, say, just against somebody, some other team. That would be kind of interesting
it would
to see,
be interesting to see what the visiting, if the totals went up for those games versus their regular season games. And then now the NL was a little harder one because for a lot of the season, people were saying Fernando Tatis Jr. And then he was out a few times.
Yeah.
And to go by, the team didn't really seem to need him at times. They got other guys who could step up, and he did his thing. But as the season went on, I think that water that had been clear at the beginning got muddy.
Yeah.
And so he was one of the that was under consideration. But then a couple other guys came up. Bryce Harper, who we had mentioned here on the show a couple of times, was having a quiet season in Philadelphia, mostly because they just weren't. They're playing in a bad division, as we really went on about the last couple of weeks. And so you kind of overlooked what he was doing.
Yeah, and he was the winner for the NL MVP with IBWAA. I did not choose Bryce Harper. He was number 2, but I went with Trey Turner just because I felt like he was more of an MVP. And I know they look at the stats and, he didn't have as many home runs, but they also, when I was just looking at the total player, I went with Trey Turner, but Bryce Harper is deserving of the award.
I don't remember if I went Trey 1, Bryce 2, or Bryce 1 and Trey 2, but Trey was up there for me as well because he really, to me, we all look at the numbers in baseball. If you're a baseball fan, you always look at the numbers, but it's the intangibles. It's the things. It's like when you look at Mookie Betts in seasons past, would you pick him this year? No. Right. And he probably would have turned it down if somebody would have, if he'd have wanted, just because he didn't think he had that great of a season. But the players who provide a spark, he was always on base. Trey was, things like that. So he got the votes for it. I think Bryce Harper, deservedly so, won that. Now the official and I'm doing like a lot of air quotes. The official awards from the Arrogant Writers of America, Baseball of America people, are coming up. I think that they just announced who the finalists are for those, and those will all be announced next week, and we'll talk about that next week. Why don't you run us down how they copied off the IBWAA's homework? Is that what we're doing now? We're doing their homework for them?
I think so. It seems that way. Rookie of the Year, Randy Arozarena, Wander Franco, and Luis Garcia. And then for the National League, Dylan Carlson, Jonathan India, and Trevor Rogers. And Manager of the Year, Dusty Baker, Kevin Cash, and Scott Service. Craig Counsell, Gabe Kapler, Mike Schilt for National League. Cy Young, Garrett Cole, Lance Lynn, and Robbie Ray for the American League. Corbin Burns, Max Scherzer, and Zach Wheeler in the National League. And then for MVP, Vladdy Guerrero Jr., Shohei Ohtani, and Marcus Semien. And then in the National League, Bryce Harper, Juan Soto, and Fernando Tatis Jr. And I can tell you the top finalists for the IBWAA almost identical, with the exception of a couple of names that I think they threw in so we wouldn't know that they cheated.
So it didn't look like they were copying.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's
and I
smart
didn't think
on their
about it. Yeah, I didn't think about it until I was looking at the award winners for IBWAA, and then I'm like, wait a minute. The finalists for Baseball Writers, this looks very familiar. Where have I seen this before?
Well,
but I'm glad we could help out.
Two things. Number one, Luis Garcia, I believe, is auditioning to be on Dancing with the Stars with his windup. And I noticed him last year when he came in, like at the end of the season. I thought, what is this guy doing? Well, I guess it's working for him. But cradle the baby, step up. It's like trying to do a thing on a video game where, you know, you can get some extra free life if you know the little code to put in. We used to play Contra, and it was like, you know, left, right, boom, up, down, you know, whatever. So, and then the other one that I really would love to see, I don't think that, obviously he's not going to win it because I think Gabe Kapler's the guy based on what he did with it. Another team that wasn't supposed to be where they ended up at. I would like to see Mike Schilt win NL Manager of the Year.
Me too. Mainly because the Cardinals fired him. You know, they can say it was for philosophical differences and be more PC about it, but they fired him. And I think it would be just like, you know, in your face, I'm Manager of the Year.
Yeah, that's a big finger right there.
Yeah.
To the Cardinals.
For Rookie of the Year in the American League, they have Randy Arozarena, Wander Franco, and Luis Garcia, and no Ryan Mountcastle, which again I think is not right. I think he should be in there. And so if you look at, you know, the things that what Ryan Mountcastle did, you know, he had more home runs than any other first year major leaguers. You know, and he was voted by the players as an outstanding rookie in the American League. I think at least he should have been, even if they're not, you know, who knows? He could have won if he had been mentioned, you know, if he had been nominated here or made it in the top three. But he should have been in the top three based on numbers.
I think that people got distracted by Wander Franco, who had his moments. But because he was the one that came on the scene, big hype, he didn't have as great of a year as everybody thinks. He had a good year. He was a good rookie, but he wasn't as good as Arozarena, his teammate.
Well,
Mountcastle was much better.
Yeah, and if you compare Franco and Mountcastle, Franco came into the majors in June. He played 70 games. He made an impact. We know that on the base pads. He had 7 home runs, but in that same span, Mountcastle hit 21 home runs, had a better OPS over 78 games versus Wander Franco. So my Wander Franco, yeah, he was flashy. He came in, driving some, really expensive car. And I'm like, yeah, but when if you're going to look at the numbers, which is what, you mentioned, we do, because what are we always looking at? Box scores, stats, all of that. Ryan Mountcastle should be in this list.
Now, it's a cool award that named after Hank Aaron, and it basically is for the top offensive player from each league. So just one person. Now somebody gets nominated from different teams, but this year, the person that for the AL, this is something that I do agree with. I don't think he was the MVP, but he was definitely overall a better offensive player, numbers wise, and probably in some cases just as exciting as Shohei, and that's Vladdy Jr. Got the Hank Aaron Award for the American League, deservedly so.
Yeah.
And then Bryce Harper was able to, he picked it up for the National League. And I didn't really look to see how he compared with other hitters, but I have no issue with either of these choices for this.
Yeah. In the AL, you had Salvador Perez, Cedric Mullins, Jose Ramirez, Shohei Ohtani, Aaron Judge, and Matt Olson were all nominees. And in the NL, Freddie Freeman, Nick Castellanos, Fernando Tatis Jr., Brandon Crawford, Paul Goldschmidt, and Juan Soto were the other finalists. So when you look at the nominees and you're strictly looking offensive, at their offense, I think these are both good picks there for the Hank Aaron Award.
All right. So we'll wrap up the awards for this week. Next week, we will have the baseball writers picks for that. And a little later today, the Silver Sluggers are going to be announced. And so we'll talk about who won the Silver Sluggers next week on the final episode for season 2 of SRBB. Don't forget to stop by our website, siblingrivalrybb.com. You can check on the Fanatics link and start doing all your Christmas shopping, because even if your family members don't like sports, they're going to look good in the team gear that you buy them. And if there's somebody that you don't like, buy them something from a team you hate. Buy them some Asterix gear. Buy them something from the Giants. If they're a Red Sox fan, buy them a Yankees t-shirt. One award, before we go, and before we look at the Gold Gloves and your picks, the Executive of the Year was announced. Last year, it was Andy Friedman from the Dodgers, and this year, appropriately so, it's his old running partner from his Tampa Bay days. It's Farhan Zaidi, who put the Giants team together, kept them together, made some great moves, and we saw what happened with the Giants' best record in baseball. So congrats to Farhan Zaidi. And now the Gold Gloves. And it looks like, based on what you posted on Twitter at Sibling Rivalry BB without the A, you did better than 50%. So you're batting over 500.
Yeah.
On both.
Yeah, so I did my predictions, put it out before they announced them. And for the National League, I was 5 out of 9. And for the American League, 7 out of 9. So I do have some problems. I got some problems with you people. That's right. The way they choose the Gold Gloves is they look at the saber metric. So they do have like 25% of the vote are the Sabre, members, and that's, all analytics. And then the 75% is managers and coaches from the 30 teams. And, but even in the stats, some of the picks, I still am like, I don't get it. I don't think so. But Gold Glove Award winners, first base, Paul Goldschmidt of the Cardinals and Yuli Gurriel of the Astros. I had picked Max Muncy for the Gold Glove because he played a career high 901 innings at first base, and he led. It's a zone rating that they look at, and he led, had a 6.3. He had 6 defensive runs saved, but so you kind of look at things and you're like, well, he was a little bit above here, and maybe, with Paul Goldschmidt, they kind of were back and forth. But Paul Goldschmidt was, the standout, I guess, in terms of the Sabre metrics and again, that's only 25%. The rest is just managers. And I wonder, how much are the managers really paying attention? Well,
Right.
if they're playing the game, if their team's playing, are they really like, oh, I got to make my picks here and let me keep a journal during
Isn't that
the
what you make the
season?
bench coach do?
Oh, maybe that's why Bob Guerin is always writing, and that's his journal. Maybe
Right.
he's doing that for the Gold Gloves. And then Yuli Gurriel, I had picked Matt Olson for the Gold Glove. He had 6 defensive runs saved. He had a better zone rating. But, I read somewhere where it said the Gold Gloves are not just stats. It's, more than that. But I'm like, no, it really should be. Really, all we have to do is looking at your fielding percentage. But there's a lot that goes into it. So anyway, so both of those got wrong. I was like, this is not going well already when I'm watching this. Second base, Tommy Edman, also a Cardinal, 1 Gold Glove there. I had picked Colton Wong. He had a better defensive rating, 6.3. Both Edman and Wong both had 6 defensive runs saved, but Colton Wong's zone rating was 5.6 versus Edman's 2.0. So I picked Wong, got that wrong.
You were wrong about Wong.
Yeah, but I did choose Marcus Semien, who did win the Gold Glove. He had a better zone rating, defensive rating than the other guys, David Fletcher and Whit Merrifield. Now, David Fletcher had 12 defensive runs saved, but his zone rating was low. But I think he will continue to play, and he will be a Gold Glove winner one of these days, maybe next season, if he just continues to do what he's doing. Third base, this is the biggest problem I have. Third base, National League, Nolan Arenado. Okay, everyone knows Nolan Arenado, he's a good third baseman, but he was not better than Trevor Story. And yet, he won. He was the Gold Glove Award winner. He's won in each of his 8 seasons when he was with the Rockies, but I guess sometimes maybe, again, it's name recognition. And if you don't know who Ryan McMahon is, or you're not paying attention to how he's playing, you're not going to vote for him. Right. But he did have zone rating. Now, this is interesting. Nolan Arenado, first defensive run saved. Nolan Arenado and Manny Machado had 6 defensive runs saved. Ryan McMahon had 12 defensive runs saved. and his zone rating was a 7.6. So, and then Nolan Arenado and Manny Machado were both in the 4s. So again, I was like, wrong. That's wrong. But he got it. And then Matt Chapman of the A's, he was my pick. So I did get that right. So I'm a little bit better. I got 2 so far. Then shortstop, Brandon Crawford and Carlos Correa. I did pick Carlos Correa, but Carlos Correa had like 21 defensive runs saved. I mean, it was like probably tops in Major League Baseball. And he just, despite his demeanor and how he is, I just was like, I got to go with it based on the numbers. And then for National League, it was Brandon Crawford, Francisco Lindor, and Kevin Newman of Pittsburgh. And again, I think it worked against him. He had 9 defensive runs saved. His defensive rating was 11.9 versus Brandon Crawford, who was 8.6. He had a better zone rating. He led all of starting shortstops in defense and zone rating. And he still didn't win. But I think, again, he's on the Pirates. Brandon Crawford is a Giant.
Right.
So in left field, Tyler O'Neill, that was pretty much a no-brainer in the National League. I mean, he was just everywhere making plays. He just, was very visible. But in the American League, Andrew Benintendi won. But I did pick Lourdes Gurriel Jr. of Toronto. Again, they all had, Randy Arozarena, Andrew Benintendi, and Lourdes Gurriel all had the same amount of defensive runs saved. But Lourdes Gurriel had a better, what's the stat where, you don't, you're like putouts. So his was better. Because he had a really strong arm. He had 12 outfield assists. That's what it is. So again, I was like, all right, Andrew Benintendi. But I got both of the next 2 right, and that's center field, Harrison Bader, another Cardinal, and Michael A. Taylor of Kansas City Royals. And then right field, Adam Duvall of the Braves, but he also played for Miami, so his time in Miami played into this. And then Joey Gallo, who, as you had said earlier, better defense than offense. But the one thing that I would like to know is, why was Joey Gallo a Gold Glove? He won the Gold Glove last year. Where was Aaron Judge? Aaron Judge had a much better defense stats in that. So again,
that's a good question.
I just was, it's like, okay. So then we look at catcher, got both of these right. Matt Olson of the A's, and then Jacob Stallings. I was really excited for Jacob Stallings. He plays for the Pirates. He was tied with Correa in 21 defensive runs saved. And just, they also look at frame rate, and his framing was 8.8. And his, 21 defensive runs saved. Just amazing. I mean, he's tied, like I said, with Carlos Correa. So I was glad to see that, because he was up against Yadier Molina, and I thought, Yadi's going to win just based on him being Yadi. Yeah. And then in the pitchers, easy, Dallas Keuchel and Max Fried. Those were, you had Zach Greinke in there, but Dallas Keuchel, I mean, holy cow, he's got like 12 defensive runs saved and 40 assists.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible.
And then Max Fried, he, the same, he had 6 defensive runs saved and 37 assists, 1 error. And Keuchel had the same. He had 1 error there. So right there, it's like, that's pretty much a no-brainer. So after everything was said and done and the winners were announced, I think I did all right.
No, you did well, and your reasoning for picking who you picked, sometimes I think it does play in that you don't play where it's like all those years of the East Coast bias. Everybody can see them play in prime time. You don't get the West Coast folks unless they're standing out bigger than everybody else, like Ohtani has. Then there's those that's what brings it up. Otherwise, it's hard to I would think though, since a lot of these awards are all by the writers or by players and teams, that those biases shouldn't come into play, but they really do. And I think a lot of times somebody gets discounted because, like you said, they play for the Pirates and they may have been the best, but it's like, well, but they play on a team that won 3 games in the season kind of attitude. I wonder, though, does that depress their value a little bit when it comes to trade time or things like that, that nobody really knows anything about them, even if they're the best player in the league, but because nobody really sees it, it's like, he may be great, but he's not going to bring people into the ballpark yet.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think it does. I think there's a lot of things, that goes along with that. When you look at, Ryan Mountcastle played for the Orioles, not being mentioned, not even, a mention as a Rookie of the Year finalist, or, in this case, like Kevin Newman, shortstop for Pittsburgh, who was head and shoulders above the other 2 nominees for Gold Glove, and yet Brandon Crawford got it. Now, Brandon Crawford is a good shortstop. I will give him that. I've seen him play multiple times, but if you're going to connect your award, Rawlings is the main, it's the Rawlings Gold Glove. But if you're going to connect your award to sabermetrics, then you really need to get it right. And
Right.
You can't say, oh, well, he was second place, but there was another finalist who was first and this guy, he tied for second because that's what happened in first base. Paul Goldschmidt and Max Muncy were very close. In fact, they were tied in a lot of categories, but I think what it came down to is Goldschmidt played more time at first base.
Right. And on that side of it, he did it over a bigger sample size. So the things like that make sense.
Yeah. But there were 5 Cardinals, all Gold Gloves. So why weren't they in the World Series?
Because you got to hit too, apparently.
That's true.
There's got to be some offense.
Yeah. Can't just
you may
be
stop runs, but you've got to produce some runs as well.
Yeah.
Or as they act, Jock Peterson, what's the key to winning? And that's score more runs than your opponent.
That's it. Jocelyn is, he's pretty philosophical when it comes to those things.
Yes. What do you got to do to win this? Score more than the other team. Yes, indeed.
That's it.
All right. So we're going to do a wrap here on the different teams. Next week, we'll be doing the Angels. But this week, it's time to take a look at...
It's time for Dodger baseball.
Regardless of the fact that the Dodgers didn't make it to the World Series or repeat as champions, they still had a great year, 106 wins. Easy if you can talk yourself into that being, as a Dodger fan, being a successful season, then you're far better than me, because I think it's a complete disappointment that the Dodgers did not win the World Series. Thus, they were terrible. I don't care how many wins they had, because like we said, it doesn't matter how many you win. It only matters that you make it to the playoffs and win the World Series. Just ask the Braves. But from another standpoint, it is easy to look at the season. It was a success, but there were still a lot of things that never felt like a success. Even as the season went, the winning streaks, and they were the best team in baseball after the All-Star break, record-wise, it never felt like that, at least to most Dodger fans.
Yeah, the Dodgers were always playing catch-up, it seemed, through the whole season. They were at one point, they were in third place in the West. They just never had like solid ground, which they had, they'd always had before when, they won the division, and they were just running away with it. And this year it was really a test for them because they were always playing catch up. They were always behind. It was why they were the wild card, why 106 win team, and they're the wild card. A lot of things for the Dodgers this season. Obviously, really good group of players, but a lot of injuries. Yet Cody Bellinger, I think sometimes we overstate, well, Cody was out. He had injuries, but then he was really bad at the plate. He got better in the postseason, which I hope is going to be like a preview of what he does next season. But yeah, you just had, Dustin May. We probably forgot about Dustin May. Tommy John surgery in May. He, had, was throwing and was like, something's wrong with my arm, and he's gone. Forget about,
Right.
about him. So there's just a lot of different things that, you look at their pitching rotation, and then it was 3 guys ultimately that they were relying on. We all know, the Trevor Bauer story and what's going on there. That was a huge dent for the Dodgers. Clayton Kershaw, he had injuries. So then you're relying on Julio Urias to pitch more innings than he'd ever pitched before. Walker Buehler pitching more innings than he normally pitches. And then you had Max Scherzer, which we totally needed Max Scherzer at that, in that trade. And glad we got Trey Turner out of it too. So I don't know. I mean, it was fun to watch them at times, but most of the time, like you said, it never felt like they were just win. When you look at, if you're just looking at their wins and losses, because if you watched them all the time, I mean, there were times where, they could hardly win 1-run games.
Right. Well, and remember, they couldn't win in innings.
Yeah.
They had entry, the 1-run games. They couldn't do anything. They ended up in 500 in 1-run games, and in innings, they were 6-13, I think.
Yeah.
In innings. So they just couldn't put it all together. It didn't feel like.
Right.
And
it was like that puzzle, and there was a missing piece, and they kept trying to put in a piece that looked similar, but it just didn't fit. And then you're like, well, I'm just going to put it in there anyway, even though I know it's not the right piece. Have you've seen those? Or
yeah. You got your thumb and you're trying to force it. Because
you're like, I know it goes
clearly
there, but it doesn't go there. And that was kind of that was the Dodger season, because if you looked at the first game of the season in Colorado, and it's like, oh, they're playing the Rockies. It's going to be great. It's going to be such a great game and exciting. And they lost 8-5.
Yep.
And that was like,
and of course, the weird thing is they go on and they win the last 3. The next night they win 11-6.
Right.
So how is it that, and when you look at that was like the tail though, that they would win a few, lose a few, they'd go on a little bit of a run. In April and May, they were 16-11 both months. A little better in June, 17-9, July 14-12, and then they were 21-6, 19-7, and of course they won out in October for the regular season, and 35-11 in blowout games. They scored more than 5 runs more than the other team.
Yeah,
but I think you're right. I think the perception of it all though was that we were always chasing San Francisco, and at one point we were chasing San Diego and San Francisco, dropped in the third place. Nobody was worried about that, and rightly so. But at that point, we all thought we were going to catch the Giants. Nobody knew that the Giants were going to be what they were.
Yeah, so it's hard to put a letter grade on the Dodgers season because it wasn't an A, and I don't know that it necessarily was a B. I mean, I guess maybe like an 80, because
but they won 106 games.
Right, but there were so many things that just didn't, like I said, it was that puzzle, and you put the wrong piece in, or you were trying to constantly fit a piece in that just didn't fit. Gavin Lux in the outfield didn't fit, things like that, that were being done. So yeah, I mean, it's hard, and I love the Dodgers. I've been a Dodger fan like forever, since I can remember. And I still maybe I give them an 80, but they're really close to being a C, the C student, just based on, I know that they won 106 games. They did make it into the postseason, but the postseason was, just not, it was not indicative of that team of players. This season, I don't think was indicative of that core group of players and what they could do. And I think some of it has to do with, and I'm not blaming them, because again, they won 106 games. Oh, we keep saying that.
There were 50 games over 500.
Yeah. But
why are you so hard on them?
There are a lot of things that happen that really, I think, kind of threw them off. I think the whole thing with Bauer, I think, really threw them off, probably more than what they would even admit. I think it really it did, because it was like, okay, what's the rotation? You take him out. He was doing well. He was pitching really well. Was fun to watch him pitch in San Francisco against the Giants. And then he, goes and does whatever, he's doing that nobody wants to know about, and really screws everything up. And it seemed like there just was a disconnect for the Dodgers this season.
And it really did that. The effect of Trevor Bauer being out, I think if he had just gotten injured, but because of what it was, and all of the details coming out, really shook up the team. Aside from all those things and the way that we saw the season, it was a great season. Numbers wise, it didn't always feel like that. When you look through, they had some great winning streaks, but it kind of felt like and before it was dominance, where they just blew through people. When certain things happened, you just expected they were going to build on it, and that didn't always happen this year. A lot more close games. So we got to look to the future now, because for the Dodgers, this is a huge offseason. This was something that people saw coming, and I think in some ways, Friedman didn't really plan well enough for. And not about people like getting Max Scherzer, who I'm sure they'd love to have back. That was something that just happened. I'm talking about, how is it that you let things get this far with Corey Seager? Chris Taylor even. Both these guys are now free agents. They've got a huge free agent class. And it's like, who do you let stay? Two of the mainstays for years through that entire run of 8 straight, Kershaw and Kenley Jansen. Both of them are free agents now in the same year, along with Corey Seager, along with Chris Taylor. Then we throw in Scherzer. Who else? Who am I missing that's on this list of free agents?
Corey Knebel is a free agent. Albert Pujols, Tio Alberto, We do have Danny Duffy, who we never saw. Cole Hamels, again, never saw. I think those two guys, yeah, pretty much not probably going to see them. And then Jimmy Nelson, who actually did pitch well, but then was injured.
Yeah, I think
so,
whenever he would come in, when I did see him pitch, it was like, who's that? And then he was gone again.
Right.
He was like, tonight's mystery pitcher.
The only guy on the free agent list that, well, I can't say the only guy, but the one guy that doesn't matter if I ever see him play baseball again is Steven Souza Jr. He is a free agent and he can go be free somewhere else. The big ones, I mean, to me, you're looking at Chris Taylor and you're looking at everything that he's done, where he's played everywhere. The ultimate stuntman, a la Mickey Hatcher and, those guys of the 88 team. Why wasn't he given? Now, he was extended a qualifying offer. Why wasn't there why wasn't there an extension? Like, why didn't they go that route?
Maybe they didn't think that he was ever going to leave as long as they would offer him something. But he showed on the national stage what his value is.
Right. And I think there is a really good chance. And I say really good. There is a good chance that he may not be in Dodger Blue next season. I would hate
join
that.
The other two that were part of his stuntmen group in Kike and Jocelyn.
Yeah.
And going somewhere else. And I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't end up on a team that, may be in the hunt for October next year, because they're going to assign that value. The Dodgers know what they have, but I think the Dodgers are in a position now, and we can talk a little bit more because I think this applies to like Clayton Kershaw, maybe Kenley, Joe Kelly would be another one that I think falls in this category, where they're hoping that they can get a little discount.
I think definitely with Kershaw, he was not extended the qualifying offer. And when that happened, everybody's like, that's
the sky
it.
Is falling.
The sky's falling. There were pictures of him with, Texas Ranger hat on, Texas jersey. And it's like, okay, wait a minute. Let's take a step back, because as we know, and I think it's all fans, but Dodger fans especially, it's always the sky is falling. We're never going to see Clayton Kershaw again. It's going to be horrible. But there was a reason behind not offering him the qualifying offer.
Yeah, number one, the qualifying offer is $18.4 million. That's a lot of money. Throughout his career, the Dodgers have taken care of him really well. But the biggest part for him is that he's not sure when he's coming back. It may be late in the season next year before he can, or late at the beginning.
Yeah.
The late early part, May.
Yeah.
Before he's able to come back. And by giving him a qualifying offer, you've now put him on the clock to say, what are you doing? It's the ultimatum. It's that, the girl asking the guy to give him to propose and give her the ring right there, or she's leaving. Propose or it's over. And that doesn't work for him, because then he has to decide, do I want to take this? Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's not sure what he's going to do till he's got to a point where he can throw. He can hold off and work out a deal with them, obviously for less money, which the Dodgers are hoping for, but also so he can see where he's at the time. And he can tell him, you know what, I'm going to go look and see if I can get a job somewhere else. And with the CBA coming up, we don't know how this offseason is really going to work. So So they did that for him because now there's no pressure on him. All he's got to do is get better. He doesn't have to worry about qualifying. He's a free agent. Do what you want to do. We hope you come back here. I don't think he wants to go to Texas, even if the stadium's 5 miles from his house. I don't think he wants to be a Ranger.
I don't think so either. I think he wants to be a Dodger and finish his career with the Dodgers. He's 34 years old. We don't know, as you mentioned, he's got that injury. It's not going to require surgery, but he had said when he wasn't in the postseason, when he was playing, that he thought, well, maybe I started throwing too soon when he had the injury earlier in the season. And so he's going to take care of himself, but I think he's going to take care of himself so he can be back on the mound at Dodger Stadium, not at the Grill in Arlington.
Right. Well, and that's what I think we all hope. Now, the question is, too, what's going to happen with Trevor Bauer? If they suspend him for the season or even part of it, it changes the amount of money they have to work with, because if he's suspended, he doesn't get paid. So I guess the questions now are, of the free agents, what about Kenley?
I think I would like to see Kenley Jansen back as a Dodger. He pitched really, really well at the last part after the All-Star break. He just was phenomenal. But you can look and say, well, but you could put Blake Trinan in that closer role, or you could put Brusdar Graterol in that closer role. But I don't know. I just can't see Kenley pitching for the Padres, which is a team that he has been linked to his name. Now, I don't know how he feels about that. But
I see him as a Marlin. I see the Marlin uniform, the Miami. I see him being okay there. And maybe it's me sending him someplace that we don't have to, where he's not going to compete
we don't
against
have to
anybody.
see him all the time.
He's not going to be,
I would like to see Kenley back, but I wouldn't be surprised if he does sign with another team. It wouldn't surprise me. And I think a lot of that is based on he's had some issues, obviously, with, I don't think not so much with the team. Well, maybe with the team, because he kind of lost that closer role for a while. Fans have been very vocal towards him, and sometimes when he comes in to close, where he's, he lost it. And you have to wonder, is he good with where he is right now? Or does he want to have to, if that were to happen again and he had that bad stretch like he did, does he want to have to experience having the fans at Dodger Stadium boo him? I mean, that could happen anywhere, but I think it kind of goes to his psyche and his mental health. Yeah. For Kenley Jansen, if he resigns. Another guy who is a free agent, I didn't mention, is Joe Kelly. The Dodgers declined his option, and so he's there. And
he had a $12 million option with a $4 million buyout. They took the $4 million buyout.
Right. And again, I think it comes down to obviously the payroll, but what is going to happen with the CBA? What's going to happen in the future? Because he is injured right now. I mean, he is throwing, according to his wife's Instagram page, but where is he? Is he going to be ready at the beginning of the season? Because he wasn't last season. We didn't even know. They're just like, Joe Kelly's out, and he ended up he'd had shoulder surgery. So where does that put him? I think the Dodgers are looking at that too, because he is injured. So can you sign him, which I think they want to do. Andrew Friedman said he really likes Joe Kelly, what he brings to the clubhouse. Obviously, he's been really good on the mound, but can you bring him back for less? I think that's
right. And that's a lot of moves that we'll see are going to be money moves where they decline an option. And it's going to go both ways. The team will decline a team option, and not necessarily because they don't want the guy anymore, but because they want to bring him back for less. And honestly, if you really want to win, somebody like Joe Kelly, Clayton Kershaw, even Kinley, if they want to come back, they'll take less. They won't insist on the contract maybe that they should get or could get, but they'll take less so you can re-sign Max Scherzer. So you can re-sign Corey and Chris and put those together and pick up maybe another frontline starter. Pitchers are going to look at it and say, can we come? They picked up Andrew Heaney.
Which is a big surprise when I saw that, but I kind of get it. I think he was a Dodger for about an hour, maybe 30 minutes before he got traded to the Angels for Howie Kendrick. Then, he was an Angel. It wasn't bad. Had his moments, went to the Yankees, not great, was optioned the last week of the season. But the Dodgers are one of those teams that get guys that you never, obviously we've heard of Andrew Heaney, but get guys that maybe are not at the peak of where they, they're at the top of their game.
That have potential that never met the potential.
Right. And they can build them up to that. A perfect example, Phil Bickford, or we call him Skip. Had you ever heard, who the heck is Phil Bickford? He was with the Brewers. Never. I'm like, I don't even remember ever seeing him in the time they played against the Brewers. Him ever pitching. Somebody that
would stand out because he's tall, blonde. Doesn't look like the accountant name that he has.
No, right. But he pitched really well for the Dodgers. Alex Vesia is another one.
He definitely.
Yeah, and even Corey Knebel. He had this great career, had injuries, but then, and even had been injured this season with the Dodgers, but came back and seemed like he was stronger. So the Dodgers have that ability. I'm hoping that Andrew Heaney, that happens for him. I like him. He pitched with the Angels. He seems, he just kind of one of those guys that you kind of just, I don't know, you just kind of like, and I want to root for him to do well. So he signed a 1 year.
I kind of liked him, but okay.
$8.5 million. I'm not like I know him.
What's funny though? It's like, it's only $8.5 million. That's not a big deal. But it's weird because, give me $8.5 million. That's a big deal.
Well,
in this big term, $8.5 million. Okay. That's reasonable. You're right. He's not a bad pitcher. He just hasn't had the work with him that he needs. I don't think he ever really got to fully develop the way that, and the Dodgers are what the Angels, we've talked about this ad nauseum about the Angels pitching issues, pitching coaches, the minor league system on how they deal with the pitchers. They don't have any. They ruin them, I think, at some point because they never really learn how to pitch on this level. And Andrew Heaney overcame that. Was enough of a solid. It's one of those things where you say, okay, I just need somebody to eat up innings, and he had moments, and you hope that he does well, and that you have other guys that will pick up the slack. The problem is he became the ace with bad numbers because there was nobody else.
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah. I mean, I don't, like I said, I don't know him personally. He seems like, it just, as a pitcher, um, he was at times, decent, you know. So hopefully the Dodgers can make him, take him from decent to, really good, awesome, whatever. But the Dodgers have that ability to do that.
yeah, from serviceable to solid.
Yeah, solid.
You want somebody that could come in and pitch, fill in a day, so you're not overworking your bullpen. He can do that without a whole lot of downside. And hopefully, with the work between Rick Honeycutt, who's still there as an advisor, and Mark Pryor, they can help him achieve maybe just a little better, so that he's not just he doesn't go down as just a mediocre pitcher, that he goes down as a good pitcher. He was a good pitcher.
Yeah. So yeah, when I first heard that they had signed him, I'm like, what? Okay, what is this about? But once you start kind of looking at it in the big picture, like, okay, I could see this. And right now, you're looking at the rotation. You have Julio, you have Buehler, but Scherzer is a free agent. I think they do want to get Scherzer back. I think Max Scherzer would probably like to be back as a Dodger. I mean, just from things that I've heard him say, and cross my fingers, kind of thing.
Right. I heard he was really happy to come, and he wanted to be on staff with Kershaw.
Yeah.
And maybe that'll drive him. Now, the thing with him, though, is he's probably going to win the Cy Young, as he's picked up awards, the best pitcher from the players, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
That really puts a price tag that, I mean, obviously Scherzer controls that. He doesn't have to take $35 million a year, but is he going to take it? Is he going to expect that or I don't think from what I've seen of him, I don't think that he will necessarily demand that, but I don't know. It's, you take it while you can, because he's going to be 38 next season.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how much he's made now. He's made a lot of money, but make 35 more million, me and the family are squared away for ever. Plus, I'm sure there's life after baseball. He's been doing the Indeed commercials where
Right.
He's even playing the organ.
Yeah, he's got some, he could take over for Dieter Rule if he's, away at another event. He could play at Dodger
When
Stadium.
Hockey and baseball overlap.
That's right. Max Scherzer will be playing the organ.
Max can't start today. He's got to fill in for Dieter.
That's right.
I
think Corey Seager is also the big name there. I have seen a lot of people say, what if the Dodgers sign Carlos Correa? And that just, to me, seems not something that will happen. I mean, I could be totally wrong, but I don't see that happening. I think Corey Seager wants to come back as a Dodger. I've seen also a lot of mention of him being linked with the Yankees. I know that the general manager for the Yankees, Cashman, says he has been in contact with Corey Seager's agent. Don't know, any particulars, but I can't really see Corey Seager as a Yankee. It just doesn't seem to fit.
I could see Mike Trout in the Yankee uniform.
Mm-hmm.
I can't see Corey in that uniform.
Yeah, I would say Mike Trout would, Yankees or the Phillies. I could see either of those.
Well, I see. Yeah. And I can see him in those, I couldn't see him in Padres colors or even
Dodger
asterisk colors. Yeah. I don't see him in Dodger blue either.
No. I don't think he would look really good in Dodger blue. I mean, he probably would, but I think I could see him in pinstripes.
You'd be like, well, if we got a chance,
right, he would look great.
But because think about it, Albert, for all of his career, was in red.
Yeah, but blue is his color.
And it came into blue, and blue was his color. Speaking of T.O. Albert, he's probably I think it's clear he wants to come back next year because he's playing in the Dominican Winter League, right?
Yeah, he's down in the Dominican Republic, and he is his home country. And what's interesting is, and I'm not going to even try to pronounce the names of the teams down there, but he back in 2002, he was picked up or drafted. He was drafted by this one particular team. He'd always been on that team, but he never played winter ball. He never, he was doing other stuff in St. Louis. And then this year, he's playing winter ball. He gets traded to another team. And just recently, he had a walk-off single. And their celebrations are really cool. They're in the clubhouse, doing the conga line. I mean, and he's all about it. He's having fun. And I think he will come back for the 22 season. And I really hope it is back in blue.
The Dodgers, his time with the Dodgers seems to re-energized him. Now, does he have to come back and play for any one reason? No. He's proved all he needs to prove. He's gone beyond that. He already did that. He's been playing for free of proof of things. I think if he comes back, it would be just to pass A-Rod.
And that's what we want him to do. So go, Albert.
If he's got the desire and he can do it, I only hope for him that if he realizes at some point, I can't do this, it's just not going to work out, that he doesn't hold on.
Yeah.
That's the one hope for him. I would love for him to come back, get number 700. That's a cool goal. Why not? He's not that far away. And have a fun year. And maybe walk away with the championship. I would love to see him come back as a Dodger. He was great for the clubhouse. I think that the Dodgers would have probably been a much more low-key team as far as like the spirit in there. They didn't seem to have what they had last year. If they could recreate that to some point, it would be helpful for him. And he helped with that, being a great influence from the baseball standpoint, from just being a great human being.
I mean, he did everything. I mean, he was the, home run hugger. He hit some home runs. He still played good defense at first base. And he even was answering, the bullpen phone for Bob Garrett.
I think the replay too.
Yeah. He
was like, hey, what are we doing? Yeah. Can we do the headphones?
He was doing it all. So I would really like to see him back. And, one of the things, we'll talk more about this is in the CBA about the universal DH. And if that happens, that is going to be.
That's a game changer across the board, but especially for T.O. Albert.
Yes.
All right. So hoping Joe Kelly gets re-signed, that they work out a deal with him. Clayton, Max Scherzer, we want Corey and Chris. I think I'd rather keep Chris and let Corey go because we do have Trey Turner. But now here's the problem with that. Trey's going to be a free agent after this next season.
Yeah.
So it's going to be an interesting offseason. Will there be trades? They've already started releasing players. I was shocked that Andy Burns was let go.
I know.
What in the world?
He can go back to his job at the office.
Yes. He can head back there What will they do? They need to shore up the pitching, probably is number one priority, and then try to find maybe a couple other of these utility guys that and they definitely need to restock a little bit of the minor system, because that was the thing. You always knew you had somebody else, and they need to trade Gavin Lux.
Yeah, there were times during the season that, it's like, hey, he's not doing too bad, but he just, the more you watch him and, they're trying to slot him into outfield because Trey Turner was playing, is playing second. Corey was at shortstop. But even when he was playing second, he just wasn't, he just doesn't seem to fit for me on the Dodgers as much. And maybe that's kind of like, what I was talking about with that puzzle piece. You keep trying to put Gavin Lux into this puzzle and it just doesn't fit. That's kind of how I feel about him. I think he could be, good somewhere. It's not, he's been, he has moments where he's really good offensively, defensively, and that's infield and outfield. But I think, why wouldn't you trade him?
Well, especially if you could get something good out of it.
Right.
All right. Well, so much to look forward to during the hot stove season with the Dodgers. What's going to happen? Of course, how much of this will be interrupted by by a potential lockout when there's no new CBA come the 1st of December.
And I know I was hard on the Dodgers. I gave them an 80 for their season when most people are like, oh, they won 106 games. But I think it's disingenuous for me as a Dodger fan, a diehard Dodger fan, to say, oh, yeah, rah, rah, they were so great this season, when we obviously saw that they weren't. But that doesn't stop that I still bleed Dodger blue and always will.
As we said, the Dodgers have a lot going on in the offseason, lots of decisions to be made. They're probably hard at work right now trying to figure everything out. The GM meetings have just recently been going on in Carlsbad, California, and that's where they start laying a lot of this groundwork for trades and other things and getting an idea of what the offseason is going to look like. And before we start looking at what the rest of the league looks like, we need to wrap up a little bit of World Series stuff. Mainly the Braves parade. Now, I know that what they did is that where the stadium is now, their old stadiums used to be more towards downtown. Their new stadium is away from town, per se. It's even a different county. And so they wanted to do the parade downtown and then over by the stadium in that area. So that meant that there was a section of it that was like on interstate, so they could zip between the two. But I don't think that anybody told the bus drivers that the only time that they needed to zip through was on that section of interstate to go from the downtown part of the parade to the area near the stadium.
Lots of comparisons that between the movie Speed and the bus drivers. In fact, I'm pretty sure maybe Sandra Bullock was driving a bus. Keanu Reeves was there. I think also that the bus won at the Talladega Speedway. Didn't see that happening, but that was
a qualifier now. I know it. They got all the points they needed to go into the championship match. In NASCAR.
That's right. Yeah, it's crazy. Why were they driving? It's a parade. Why are you driving so fast? Where were you trying to get to that I just want this to be over.
They're not giving me overtime to do this.
Maybe they were an Astros fan. The bus driver was an Astros fan.
Maybe so. Yeah, it was It was a little quick. And then you hear varying stories that come out that they told them not to, they didn't have to drive fast, but they needed to but like that, it needs to get over with. You need to get this part through. They got to get up to the other section. It'll be a little slower there, but it's like, it's like when the everybody lines up along a street when the presidential motorcade goes by, and so the glass is all dark anyway. The president's not gonna like stop or Ray. You're not gonna see Biden or Trump or Obama or whoever stick their hand out the top. There's not a sunroof there, or roll the window down and wave. No, everything's dark. It's bulletproof. If they go by, you just have to assume that you saw him through the dark glass. And chances are he's not even looking out the dark glass. He's sitting back going, oh man, I can't believe I got 20 more things to do. Or he's talking about some other, issue with an advisor. So that was kind of like this was. That the players are all up on top having a good time, but they're like, like those, the things in the bus where they're on top of a double-decker bus and they go through by some trees and the trees are whacking them in the face because they're going real fast through there. They got plugs in their teeth, trying to hold on, hoping that the hologram of Dennis Hopper doesn't detonate the bomb that's on the bottom of the bus.
Yeah, it was a crazy parade. The only thing I kept seeing were pictures of Jocelyn smoking a cigar with his pearls on. And I was like, how many times do I have to see this picture? Like every single time, like if I looked at Twitter or I looked anywhere, it was always him. And I did see where somebody had said that they had trigger words that they had muted on Twitter. And it was Braves, Parade, Jock Peterson, they had muted these words so they didn't have to. And maybe I should have done the same thing because I was like so tired of seeing Jocelyn with his cigar. But the other thing that was besides the bus, that was really funny. And then all of the memes and everything that came after was Tyler Matzik almost being arrested.
Because he was a fan, apparently.
Yeah.
With the way the buses were moving, maybe they were just trying to get him out of the way so he didn't get run over.
Yeah, but they did have his hands behind his back. He did end up having to show his ID, but he had his jersey on. It said Matzik.
I could buy a Matzik jersey.
That's true. But the police officer who, who grabbed him, they had said they told the players not to get off the bus, that they couldn't walk on the parade route. And he wasn't the only one, but he was the one that got all the attention because they had video of him almost being arrested. And apparently, that police officer either knows nothing about baseball, is not a baseball fan, not a Braves fan, because that would have been hilarious. Tyler Matzik, I would have loved to have seen his picture, when he's getting processed into the jail for being on a parade route without permission.
That would have been good. All right. So that puts a wrap on that. We never have to talk about the Braves and the World Series again. However, they did provide some good entertainment at the with the parade and that celebration.
Comedy of errors.
And the Keystone Cops, apparently.
Yep.
All right. So one other big piece of news I think that we need to throw out there has to do with a San Francisco Giant, and that would be Buster Posey. 34-year-old catcher has announced his retirement.
Yeah, he wants to spend more time with his family. And also the physical toll it's taken on his body of playing catcher. He just said, I want to spend more time with my family, but it makes it hard when physically I don't feel well. And so he, decided to retire, and I think he did it in the right way. He opted out last season. He and his wife adopted twins, and so he was concerned about, COVID, obviously, and and his family's health. He opted out, and he did say that his retiring, him not playing last season, did have an effect on him announcing his retirement. And he was able to have he went out on a high because he was so good this season. In 2019, his OPS was, I think, in the 600, it was really bad. And he had goals, and he met all of those goals this season. And now he goes out, on top. So wish him the best of luck.
Feeling satisfied with his effort, I'm sure. Yeah, and I wondered if, having set out last season, regardless of the reasons, would you come back, you either feel invigorated and I can do this for 10 more years, like we were talking about, Albert Pujols feels much better about it. Buster said, you know what, I'm done. And the time away helped him make that decision, not just on the spur of the moment, not just because his knees hurt and he was tired after a long season, but because he had really time to think about it.
Yeah. And he, you look at Buster Posey, it amazes me that he's only 34. He just seems like he's older. And maybe it's just his demeanor, the way he carries himself. He's kind of, the statesman of the Giants, because he was there, for their 3 championships. But you have to think about, everything, all of his injuries. He had hip surgery. He has the rule change, with the catcher at home plate, is because of Buster Posey. When he broke his, tore some ligaments, broke his leg.
Right. Yeah.
So, he's always going to be known as that, guy, but obviously he's going to be known for more than that. I mean, he was a 7-time All-Star, including his final season. He hit 304 this season. And he was the first catcher in Major League Baseball history to hit 300 or better in his final year. He's caught, I think 3 or 4 no-hitters. I mean, he really was a solid at the plate. And he had a good, I think, going into this, like you said, he was thoughtful about it. It wasn't like, well, I just don't want to play anymore. There were reasons why, and he had worked out a deal with Gabe Kapler when he was playing. He plays 2 days, he's off, a day, or I think he played 2 days, off 2 days, something like that, which worked in his favor, but something that he knew he needed. And Gabe Kapler was astute enough to understand that this is Buster Posey and I'm going to do that for him. I know Farhan Zaidi did ask him at the press conference, are you sure? Are you sure about this? But yeah, he's sure. And I think, he will be a Hall of Famer.
I believe that too. All right. So now it is time for the first trade of hot stove season.
Tucker Barnhart from the Reds to Detroit. I'm sure he's excited.
Hey, I'm going to get to learn how to cheat. Or more appropriately, I'm going to get to go do whatever I want to do while my manager looks the other way.
I'm sure that's his first thought.
Yes, that's it.
That's what he was thinking.
The
first trade.
He's the Tigers have a decent pitching staff they're building up, they're learning. Casey Mize is there. Who else? They've got some decent pitchers, and he can grow there. We said it before, regardless of what AJ Hinch did in Houston, we felt like he was a good manager. And nothing says he's not. He's just tainted. And mostly because, while he said he didn't have any part of it, he didn't do anything about it. And
Yeah,
that
that's
makes
the
him
bigger
complicit.
thing. Yeah. Well, and so we talk about Tucker Barnhart, this first trade from the Reds, which leads us to Wade Miley, who also of the Reds, being picked up on waivers by the Chicago Cubs. So what is going on in Cincinnati?
Are they tearing down for a rebuild? Because I've also heard that Castillo, they're probably their ace there, is on the market. And of course, that piques the ears, perks up the ears of the Angels, of course, who won't get him. The Dodgers are expressing interest as well. And I think he would be a good addition there. You re-sign Scherzer. You sign Castillo. You've got Kirsch. Dustin May comes back. Maybe you create a situation where if Bauer never comes back, which I don't know if we mentioned, but Bauer did. No, we did last week about declining to opt out. He did. He opted in. And what else would he?
Of course
have
he
done?
did. Right. That would be silly if he like, nah,
right.
I'm not going
it's like if you're injured and you have the option and it's the player option, you're going to opt in because you don't know what's coming up and you don't know where the next paycheck's coming from. Then you're going to get it. Now, does Trevor Bauer need another paycheck? He got $40 million for not doing anything much this season. I can live the rest of my days on 40. Of course, I'm 20 years older than he is, but I think that even if I was at 30 and I had $40 million, not that I couldn't blow it with nothing to show for it, but I'd like that chance. But I think I'd be okay going forward. But that opens the doors now to, there's a lot of free agents out there. And, there's a ton of them that people aren't going to be worried about. They're not going to be looking at, say, Andrew Knapp, who's a free agent catcher. No, they're not going to be looking at a lot of these guys who weren't that good during the season. Maybe they'll be a good guy. Kurt Suzuki from the Angels is a free agent. Maybe they'll look at that for veteran leadership. But that's not the guy who's going to come in. And we're also seeing that a lot of guys like Nick Castellanos, who had a really awesome start to his year in Cincinnati, has opted out of his contract.
Yep.
I think we're going to see as the qualifying offers, as people start responding, a lot of players are going to opt out, or they're going to decline the qualifying offer, either because they think that they can get more somewhere else, or they don't want to come back to that team. They want to force that team to pay them more than the $18.4 million that they've got. And I think a lot of this is all going to be playing back and forth because of the CBA.
Yeah. One that really just gets me is, and he just seems to be locked in as a Brave for the rest of his career, is Freddie Freeman. I don't think that he's not going to be in Atlanta, but just that he's at the top of the free agent list for first baseman. It's like, why wouldn't Atlanta? Why didn't they? And I guess it could go into this too, but why didn't they do a contract extension? We've heard some things with some of the players, like, yeah, we did we wanted to do a contract extension, but they declined it, or they rejected that offer. I don't know that the Braves did anything with Freeman, because it doesn't seem like he would fit he would fit anywhere really, but he's a Brave, he's an Atlanta fixture. So that seems to me kind of why is he even on a list of free agents.
Right.
Anthony Rizzo and Chris Bryant, both free agents. Chris Bryant, have heard a lot of talk, maybe as a Mariner. Makes sense. Third base is open.
I know the Mets wanted to talk to him as well. If I'm here, I'm not going to the Mets until they figure out what's going on with the Mets.
Yeah.
You know, I just noticed in looking through the list that the brothers Austin and Andrew Romine are both free agents.
Yes.
As are both Corey and Kyle Seager.
Yeah.
Are both free agents. I think it would be interesting. They can't do it with the Dodgers, but if Corey was to go someplace else that didn't necessarily need a third baseman, that they also sign Kyle, and they can have the Seager brothers on the left side of the infield. So yeah, I mean, there's some big names. We know this is the year of the shortstops. You got Carlos Correa, Trevor Story, Javi Baez, Andrelton Simmons back on the market, Jose Iglesias, who had a great start with the Angels and a great finish with the Red Sox and a really bad middle. But I guess, you know, if you look at it like a cookie with filling, the outsides are hard. So he had solid on the front and the end, and he was kind of mushy, cream filled in the middle.
Yeah. I think the biggest name, the biggest name on the shortstop that you will continually hear is Carlos Correa. The Astros have offered him 5 years at $160 million. Before that, he was offered, I think it was 5 years for like 125 or 130, something in that range. Now they've upped it to 160. And a lot of comparison between him and Fernando Tatis Jr. And his contract. But when you look at Tatis's contract, it's, 14 years, 380 million, something like that. So
it's younger. And
he is younger. But if you're looking at a 14-year contract for, over 300 million, he's looking at a 5-year for 160. Really, there's not too much of a difference when you look, if you broke it down to what Tatis is getting each year, because it's 14 years and they're just looking at 5 years. Plus he's been playing with them. They know his injuries, what he's capable of. Do they want to get rid of that infield? I mean, he's playing with Jose Altuve. They've got a good infield there. So I think for Correa, I think he thinks he's worth a lot more than what he really is. I'm not saying, obviously he's a Gold Glove winner. He had, tied for the most defensive runs saved. But in the whole scheme of things, how much do the Astros know behind the scenes of what he's capable and injury wise and things like that?
Yeah, they know him well enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Because we've seen, look at Manny Machado. He has a huge contract too with the Padres. But he's not like he's been, busting down the door for, excellence every season since he's been there.
A couple other free agents that I noticed, and I bring them up because they were key members of that Braves championship team. Eddie Rosario and Jocelyn, both free agents, and both played a big role throughout the postseason for the Braves. I'm sure I would bring back Rosario. Jocelyn, maybe, but Rosario for sure.
Oh, yeah. Jock, I think, he can hit. He hits pretty well, especially when he's on a good streak. Defensively, it's not like he's above average. He's probably a little bit more than average, but not, he's nothing like spectacular. I could see him coming back as a Brave, but I don't know that they necessarily need him next season.
No, Jorge Soler, also one of those members, is also a free agent. We mentioned Nick Castellanos. Show favorite, Brian Goodwin, who had an okay year in the little bit that he got to play with the White Sox. He is also a free agent. Cole Calhoun from the Diamondbacks. I would think he's probably going to end up staying there. Arizona's his home. He has enjoyed, and I think if he stays for a while, he will become the new long run face of the Diamondbacks. And then, of course, Michael Conforto, who's an on again, off again guy with the Mets. I wouldn't be surprised if he's trying to get out of there, and he might become an on again guy elsewhere. And then Starling Marte was another one that popped up I think.
Well, one guy that we probably even forgot played baseball. That's Ian Desmond, who played for the Rockies, opted out of the 2020 season and the 2021 season. Didn't get paid. He's now a free agent. Rockies declined his option. I think he probably just needs to retire. Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a lot of big names we talked about. Who knows who's going to go where. Marcus Semien, who is in the MVP talk, is also up. And you mentioned talk about people maybe going to the Mariners. His name has popped up to play second base in Seattle, which I wouldn't be surprised. Especially as close as they feel like they are now, that they might try to go a little more all in, pick up a couple more big pieces, and try to take out the asterisks.
If you look at the pitchers, there's just pages of their names, and these are guys that you would think, well, why wouldn't they still be, and where are they going to end up? Like Kevin Gausman of San Francisco. Carlos Rodon, of course, Clayton Kershaw, Robbie Ray, Zach Greinke, Marcus Stroman, Anthony DeScalfani, Alex Wood, Rich Hill is a free agent. Johnny Cueto is now a free agent because the Giants declined his offer. Corey Kluber. It just kind of goes on, and then you kind of get into where, a lot of these guys are like, I don't know where John Lester, he's, but there's a lot of pitching out there, and where will they all end up? Justin
Thor
Verlander
is out there as well, potentially. Noah Syndergaard.
Right. Yeah.
He's a free agent as well. And, a lot of that talk, we'll talk next week about the Angels, and the Angels will come up big in a lot of these guys, as far as especially the guys up at the top. They're going to try to go all in on a few of these guys and pick up two solid pitchers, maybe a third if they can. But yeah, there's a lot of names where you wonder with the pitchers, where are they going to go? What are they going to do? And when you read through some of the expert lists, you read like on MLB.com, they'll have an article, what every team needs. And 3/4 of the teams need starting pitching or bullpen help, one or the other. And a couple of them need, I need a shortstop, or they need a second baseman, or they need a left-handed bat. So here we go. And we're hoping that it will be as exciting as it looks like it could be with the Hot Stove League. But we won't really know until we see what happens with the CBA. That's going to hold everything up. And we will talk more about the CBA next week on the final edition of SRBB.
And before we go, we have to mention SRBB favorite, Whitey Herzog, a belated happy birthday. He turned 90 this week. And there's a great article with the St. Louis Dispatch where he just comes out firing. He's 90. He can say whatever he wants. My favorite quote, Rob Manfred has never worn a jockstrap.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That should be on a T-shirt.
It really should be. But yeah, happy birthday to Whitey. Like I said, he's a SRBB favorite.
And he, in that story, the things that he talks about are all the things that a lot of people have said. We're not going down the road of we need to make all these things. He said putting someone on second base in innings, stupid. That was stupid. You know, all this stuff. He said there's too many pitches. He's right. You go back to the games. He talks about, I watched him a lot. And here's a guy who was a Korean War veteran. And I remember him as a manager for the Cardinals. And the things that he did and the game that he describes is exactly the game that I remember and the game that a lot of people were connected to more than they are now. Let's think about this. Baseball is not the only sport that takes 3 hours of your time. A football game's 3 hours. Basketball, somewhere in the neighborhood, 2.5, 3 hours. And these are timed games. Baseball doesn't have a time limit, but the reason that things are going longer is because they keep trying all this garbage instead of incentivizing shifts and home runs. Strikeouts have always been a metric. But as Whitey said, nobody ever got paid for striking out. It was an embarrassment to strike out. A lot of players from that time frame said the same thing. It was an embarrassment to strike out. You put your head down, you walk back. You didn't have a strut when you walked back. And a good at bat wasn't 12 pitches that you fouled off 8 of them. So he's right on that the pitchers need to stop throwing as many. Yes, the umps need to call it better. As he said, you've got 0-2. The third pitch, even if it's a strike down the middle, is probably going to be called a ball. And we talked about that last season. Remember, we talked about Keith Law's book, talking about how they're averse to making that call. Fewer pitches will speed up the game. Hitting the ball, playing small ball, even home runs that mixed in there. But instead of all the strikeouts and all of that, you know, he's just said all of these rules that you're coming up with are just stupid. And Whitey, I wasn't a big fan because you were a Cardinals manager and I hated the Cardinals. Well, not really. I just hated Jack Clark. Because I always liked, I mean, they had some great ones. Lou Brock. I saw Bob Gibson pitch at the end of his career.
Yeah.
Keith Hernandez was a Cardinal at one time. Ozzie Smith.
Well, he's my favorite. He's now my favorite, just for the one quote. Just
for that. Dad never worn a jockstrap, and all those new rules that you put in are stupid.
And that'll do it for this week's Sibling Rivalry Baseball podcast.
Remember, you can find us on our website, siblingrivalrybb.com, and on Facebook and Instagram at Sibling Rivalry BB.
We're also on Twitter at Sibling Rivalry BB without the A. Email us, show@siblingrivalrybb.com. We'd love to hear what you think, so subscribe and rate us wherever you listen to our podcast.
Next week on SRBB, remember we're back on Friday instead of Thursday, and then it's time for a long winter's nap.
And with new Hallmark Christmas movies every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, our schedule is full. You know, it's interesting. How come the Braves aren't named after a bird as well?
Right.
The Hawks, the Falcons.
The Hawks, the Falcons. What could they be?
The Dodos.
The Falcons. The Hawks and the Dodos.
And now your world champion, Dodos.